Good morning. Oh, I can't hear you.
Joining with computer audio. Maybe it'll work.
There we go. It's okay. I had to just sprint. I'm probably sweating. For some reason, my internet isn't working up in my office. Luckily, my family isn't home. And so I just sprinted down to the family room and put the dog away. So you probably hear the dog barking in the background, but I don't.
Got it.
It doesn't look too.
It looks like a new environment. I like it.
Yeah, it doesn't look too messy in the back, does it?
No, actually, I like it. It makes you look smarter because you got all the books.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. And I got the natural light coming in. Maybe I'll do this more often.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing this.
Absolutely, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just I took a 3-day nutritional and digital fast.
How was that?
The digital part was rough for the first half day, and then it got easier. The nutritional fast went in the other direction. And I didn't do it. I'm paleo, and so I'm kind of in ketosis a lot anyways, and I do 24-hour fasts. So my body is more adapted to it. So I didn't have the weird things that happen to some people. But you're supposed to go into it like with the day before the fast, have a really high-fat meal or meals on the day before, but low carb. I had my Dallas event, and because of that, and I was also trying to close my final 2. I set a goal to close 7 of my Freedom Club Accelerator folks.
I saw that you closed them, by the way.
Yeah, with like 2 hours to spare, a dude came in and bought one for him and his wife. It was perfect. Then I went to the event. I didn't eat, so I ended up doing it was like 30 degrees in Dallas, and I had no coat. So I couldn't like leave and I had no car. I couldn't eat. So through no planning, I ended up doing like a 27-hour fast. And then all I had to eat, because everyone was shutting down, was a glass of wine and 2 bratwurst on a stick. So that's all I had to eat. So in effect, it ended up being like a 4-day fast.
The last time I didn't eat for 3 days, I was forced to because I was in the military.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I was feeling really rough.
I felt worse yesterday. The day after, my back was out for some reason. And this is probably TMI, but like this morning was the first time in 5 days that I went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to that. And so, but I don't do it for weight loss. It's the cancer, it's the cell repair, it's all that stuff. It's the Tim Ferriss, Dave Asprey shit, and so, but the digital stuff I'm going to do every weekend. Like I read 2 books. And I have a notebook filled with notes and ideas. And I came out yesterday and I just crushed it yesterday. Like I had so much built up energy. So
it definitely takes mental debt on you. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Are you ready? I'm going to throw us into Facebook. We could chat in there while people log on too.
Sure.
Let us do this. Awesome. So I've learned to have a separate computer because when I do it on here, there's like a delay.
Got it.
Where are you at? There you are.
We're live.
We are live. Yes.
The magic of technology.
Yeah, Zoom's pretty cool on it. The one thing I wish they would do is do multiple, where I could do YouTube at the same time.
Yeah.
I haven't really cracked the YouTube nut yet. I haven't really put any work into it, but that's my next goal.
I think that there's a relay for this.
Really?
I got to look at it. I'll look it up afterwards and send you something if I find it.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Who am I inviting here? That's good enough. Do you know Pete Dunn, by the way? You guys are connected on Facebook. Do you know Pete?
I might.
A lot of people out there. He's a sales guru. He's out of the UK, and I work with him. He's awesome.
Yeah.
A huge difference in my selling and my closing. I saw he was connected. The reason I saw he was connected with you was actually, is Pete connected with you? Or do you know Tyler? He works with Anthony Asaturo.
Tyler Gardner?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know him. He's asked me a couple of questions before in like another group. I think that he helps out Sully over at Bomb Tech too. So
cool.
We have all these little connections, but never talked to him over the phone. Just a little bit of chat back and forth.
Cool. He's I did one call with him, and I'm so impressed. I'm impressed with the whole Launch Titans team. Thanks for that recommendation. They redid my entire website. They built my online course. And today, cross our fingers, we're launching my lead magnet and Facebook campaign.
Dude, I'm so excited for you. Like,
yeah.
Does it feel like you're about to skydive?
Yeah. You know, it's one of those things where I'm a control freak, and everything I've done, it's me personally outreaching. So I'm looking forward to cruise control and having them sell my online course so I can focus on my retreats, my speaking, all that good stuff. So it's, because, you know, if I'm spending all my time selling a $497 course, I'm not good. But we've built a funnel, a value ladder. It's pretty awesome. So thank you. I owe you for that hookup with Anthony.
Dude, he is definitely special, and he's working with Frank Kern right now. So like, you're getting insights into stuff that has been battle tested for over a decade. And I mean, David Tendrich is my partner with a couple of businesses that I do. I love the guy as a copywriter, but he even adores Frank Kern. So the fact that Anthony gets to work with this guy, it's just, I mean, Frank is good at what he does, but he's also connected to all the good marketers too. So right. Like, it's like that, it's the power of masterminds, right? It's like the power of being connected to all these people, and you can learn together rather than investing all those dollars yourself.
I get some good feedback on what's going on and what's working and what's not. You know, one thing that I've done that Anthony was like, you got to do this. Pete said, you got to do this. Fraser Cameron, who's my mindset coach, he was like, you got to do this. And then I read Grant Cardone, and Grant, I'm mixed on, right? There's certain things that I agree and I disagree with him. But the chapter that really spoke to me was like, he was posting once a day, and people were like, don't post more than once a day. You're going to anger people. And then he was like, if I'm going to 10X my business, I'm going to 10X my content. And so I started it last week and saw huge, like, I don't care about the views anymore. I don't care about the reach. I don't care about anything. I was just posting stuff as I walked down the hall and walked down the street. I got one left. I got two left. And all these calls were coming in. And so I got 5 or 6 posts going up today. Gary Vee does the same thing, you know, and we can talk about that because I know you and I have some thoughts about certain things that others do and what's bullshit and what's not. But
listen, you know, whether they're bullshit artists or not, like they're not completely full of shit because they made it to that level. Like, I don't care what people say, but like, all these people are clearly successful at something. Like, you know, are they are you getting them when you buy a course from them? No. Right. But like, you know, that's where a lot of the disappointment comes from. And is there certain things that some of these people say that maybe you and I don't 100% agree with? Yeah. But I mean, we're all entitled to our own opinion, right?
No, right. Yeah, it's total. And Gary likes to talk out both sides of his mouth in the span of a 2-minute discussion. Now, a lot of it, I'd say 70% of what he says. I can't stand his interviewing because he talks over it. Like, he was talking over Tony Robbins. He wouldn't let Tony Robbins get a word in. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. You know, it's like, it's Tony Robbins. Let him speak.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we got some people on, so I'm going to do a little intro and then we can get into it.
Very cool, man. Looking forward to it.
So this is going to air. This will make sense when I say happy Wednesday, but this is going to air in a few weeks. So happy Wednesday, everyone. This is the Freedom Club podcast. I am your host, Curt Mercadante. If you are listening, you're actually hearing this a few weeks after we live stream this in the Freedom Club community. Every single podcast episode, I pitch the Freedom Club community. And if you have not yet gone to Facebook, search for Freedom Club community, saw my ugly mug, clicked on it, and applied to join, what the hell is wrong with you? Go there right now. Every single one of my podcast interviews is live streamed in the Freedom Club community. You can ask questions. You can watch as they happen. So please join there. And because it's Wednesday, it's our interview segment. And today we have a treat for you. We have Eric Carlson. I'm going to start with this one because I love it, but he's a Guinness World Record holder. He's also founder of 10xFactory. He's had a big impact on my life and my work. And so we're going to jump in now. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to talk to you, man. I think that you have the best beard on this side of the Mississippi.
It's funny.
And I'm just blessed with that presence.
Scott Westwater, who is a member of the Freedom Club community, he's in Chicago. He's an expert in voice, Alexa, apps, everything. He's awesome. And he and his wife have a company. He's someone who last year said, screw the 9 to 5. They jumped in. I think, and if Scott joins us, he can chime in here, but he and his wife had been wanting to do this. And they had, I think, filled out like the LLC paperwork and it was like a half hour from midnight on New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. And they finally jumped in with like 20 minutes to spare. And they founded their company. But Scott's got a beard and he's growing it and he's got the gray and the black. His wife sent me a Facebook message last night and said, we weren't even connected, and said, I think you're rubbing off on Scott. He keeps growing his beard out.
I don't know if that makes you a good or a bad influence. I guess it depends on what she likes, right?
Yeah. Someone asked me, and I actually have it. Probably in future episodes, I'll have it as the podcast background, but I use it in my events. And it's a background with my logo. If anyone's watching this in video form or whatever, you're going to see my logo, which is basically this. And someone at my event last week's like, dude, you can never shave. Would you ever do it for charity? And I said, 50 grand minimum to raise money for charity. Like, that's it, because it's my brand and it would take, a while to get back to this level. So, well, cool. Well, Eric, thanks for joining us. You know, the first question I always ask all my guests is, what does the word freedom mean to you? And some people go a political route. Some people, by the way, I've seen some of they're political posts, but they're not political posts. They're anti-political posts. And you and I are right there. I worked in politics for a long time. You know, you served in the U.S. military. So thank you, first of all, for your service. So you have a different idea of this question. But the first question I ask everyone is, what does the word freedom mean to you?
Well, you know, it's funny that you asked that question, because I think a lot of people, they would say freedom means doing whatever the fuck I want, right? And I honestly don't look at freedom that way. I think that freedom, the closest thing that you can get to freedom, is actually something that you have to work at. And I know that sounds crazy, but like when I look at like my life, right, as an entrepreneur, I have so many opportunities that fall on my lap all the time. And if I did everything that I wanted to, I would be absolutely miserable. So freedom is like, the equivalency of freedom is the closest thing that I can get to happiness. And despite what people think about, you know, freedom being free to do whatever, I think that if you want to be as close to free as possible, you actually have to work at it, which is nuts.
Yeah. Well, what is it? Jocko, his line is like, discipline equals freedom. And often I tell the story of my, when my wife and I were first married, we were living in a small little apartment in DC, right outside of DC in Arlington, Virginia. And we had a little pug, and pugs by their nature are very nervous dogs. And we thought it was cruel to put him in a crate when we went to work. And so we would go to work and we'd get back at 8 or 9 and he would have shit pissed everywhere, eaten everything up. And the neighbors were, we would have found he was barking like all day, but he was also completely worn out and like throwing up because he was so, and the vet said, no. Don't think of it as cruel to put him in the crate. It's cruel to let him out all day. And he said, putting him in the crate actually makes him feel more secure. And so I use that story a lot of times because, you know, Jordan Peterson talks about the fine line between order and chaos. And that's where kind of fulfillment and happiness lies. And when a lot of people come out and they think of freedom, they're like, I'm going to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And they realize chaos has become a prison. And for our dog, that crate wasn't about keeping him out. It was about keeping the bad stuff from reaching him. And so you got to put restrictions on your time, your calendar, everything in order to get that freedom, which sounds counterintuitive, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go the political route, I could say freedom is not paying taxes. I would love to do that. Yeah. Freedom to be able to, you know, kind of run my business the way I want. But no, I think freedom is just, it's something that definitely you have to work at. And I mean, maybe the closest thing for me is being able to understand yourself so that you can qualify what's a good opportunity, a bad opportunity for your time, and saying no. Like the power of no might be the closest thing to actually having freedom and meaning it.
It's interesting because there was someone posted on LinkedIn, I can't remember who it was, and it was about, you know, as you start getting some success and getting content and viewers, you start to get more and more requests for your time. And my favorite is, like, you and I, one time you were like, we got to hop on a call. And we hopped on a call and you offered it, and we kind of had a relationship already. And so it was your time, but you were happy to hop on the call, and I was bouncing ideas off you. But I get a lot of people I've never met in my life, have never engaged with me, will all of a sudden message me in a very pushy way. Hey, here's my phone number. Need to hop on a call with you today to pick your brain. And so it was an interesting debate about people saying no. Like, if I did that all the time, I wouldn't get anything done. And so if that person has some sort of a relationship, or on the other hand, quite honestly, wants to buy my stuff, you know, is interested. And some people read that and they don't understand it. And they say, well, Curt's just a dick. But they don't understand how many calls I actually do with, you know.
Your time is value, and that value is something that you have to be a gatekeeper to. I mean, I get people all the time, they hit me up and they're like, oh, can we have an hour phone call? And I'm like, no.
Right.
They're, you know, let me know what it's about and let's see if it actually makes sense. I mean, I'd rather avoid a phone call if I know it's not going to be productive. And listen, if I don't know you, it's funny because even like Facebook groups and stuff like that, occasionally I'll post something about like a tip or trick for Facebook. And just so that people have context, like, I spend millions a month on Facebook ads. I consider myself the best Facebook marketer in the world. If you think you're better, compete with me, right? But like, I post stuff, and like at the very bottom of my post, I'm like, P.S. do not contact me. I'm not interested in doing business with you. and you know, I get a few contacts that roll in after that, and I'm just like, refer back to the PS in the post. Right.
No, it's funny. And some people just don't quite get it, or, you know, they don't read the full post either. So it's like, if you're interested, click the link. And instead of clicking the link, you know, and it's an online course, here's my phone number. I need to really discuss this with you. It's like, it's an online course, you know, you just either click or don't.
Right.
But you know, that calendar piece is so important. So I definitely want to talk about the Facebook advertising and the marketing and 10xFactory and everything, and your love affair with Russell Brunson. Because I tell people, whenever people ask me about you, it's like, dude, he does so many Facebook ads and it's so successful. Like, Russell takes them up, he gives them like the platinum records, right, and things like that. But let's start with because I just love this story, the world record. Tell everyone about the Guinness World Record.
So I actually, I'm going to tell the story, but I'm going to have to admit to some shame recently that, and I didn't want to tell you before this because I figured it'd be more fun to tell you now, but I found out last week that this record has been beaten.
Oh my goodness.
So one of the cool things that I had a chance to do is I'm a multiple 2 Comma Club winner. And what that is it means that you sold over 7 figures through a funnel using ClickFunnels. And I've done it multiple times. And there was a point in time where there was only about like 180 of us. And Russell wanted to get us all together. So he invites us all out for free to Boise, Idaho. And what was crazy is pretty much all of us showed up. But the secret to getting us all to show up, because, I mean, who else is just going to go to Boise, Idaho? he promised that we would have a chance to break the Guinness World Record, right? And, as entrepreneurs, come on, like, how are we not going to say?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So what we did is we went on Boise State University's Smurf turf, which is all this blue turf, absolutely amazing. And we had the largest bubble soccer game at the time. I'd like to tell people that I trained for months. It was a lot of working out. I fasted for a while. But no, it was just a ton of fun. And, I mean, I remember right afterwards we go to a restaurant and I'm sitting down with my buddy Ryan Hogan. He's the founder of Honey Killer. And we're sitting down at a table, and the waitress comes up, and I go, "You might not know this, but he's kind of a big deal. He has a Guinness World Record."
It's too funny. So it was broken.
It was broken. Apparently, it was broken by somebody in France, and it was so funny because I don't know how to take this, but like it was somebody that wanted to like talk to me, and they wanted my advice and everything, and they shoot this to me, and they were like, "Hey, I gotta tell you some news. You guys had your record broken." So I just felt really, really sad and wasn't sure I wanted to talk to that person anymore.
Well, you guys got to go up to Boise State again and break it.
Oh yeah,
you can't let the French win.
No, and maybe I'll just do it with 10x, man. We'll just get all the 10x. We'll
get it together. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you put some pressure on the French, they're going to surrender anyways.
It's never happened before.
Yeah. So let's get right into this. I want to talk about, subscription boxes are huge. I have a subscription box that comes, I don't even remember signing up for the damn thing, but it's awesome. It's a gentleman's box. And I think I finally figured out it was GQ because I started getting free editions of GQ, but you get a tie, cufflinks, whatever, which I'll probably cancel because I don't wear ties anymore. But you've got one of the fastest growing subscription boxes, and I see your ads all the time now. And the ad that you just highlighted with the woman and the guy, and they're kind of like that, I see constantly. Mm-hmm. So it's called Hunt to Killer. Tell us about that. Not only what it is, not only the game, because it's such an awesome deal. And I saw something on Shark Tank the other day that's it's not a subscription box, but it's more of an event and it's an app where you go and you find a treasure. And I was thinking, oh man, they're nowhere near as cool.
By the way, we have a B2B play that might be a little bit like that too.
Nice. Okay. All right. Cool.
We'll keep that quiet.
Yeah. So tell us about it, what it is, and how you grew, and where you started and where you are now.
Wow. Great question. So, I mean, Hunt Killer is it's just an immersive box experience where every month you get a box. It includes clues, sometimes police files, sometimes like medical records, all these different things, right? And it's an episodic series. So there's a season to each one of these. It's about six episodes per season. There's wins in each and every box, but to complete the full mystery, you got to go through all 6. And it's been absolutely incredible. The guy that originally founded it, a guy named Ryan Hogan, I swear to God, he has the best nose for product market fit I've ever seen in my life. He had came to me after they ran a live event, and he was like, "Can we sell this online?" And we hadn't sold anything online, and I was like, "I don't know." This sounds mysterious. I'm not sure how to explain it. But listen, if anybody's got a shot at making this work, it's me. We're going to make this work. Right. So he comes in, and at this time, true crime and murder and all that stuff was so popular on podcasts. You still see it to today. A lot of these podcasts are being turned into TV shows, whether it's Dirty John or The Black Dahlia. And he just hit this market at the exact right time. And it was crazy because I think the first week, so it's a $30 a month subscription, but we offer a 6 and a 12 month. And doing that initially, we had an initial order value of $65. So the first week that we launched, it cost $90 to acquire a customer. Second week, 60. Third week, we were down to 40, and then last week we were down to 30, and we were at 30 for the longest time. So we were cash flow positive day one, and that allowed us to grow the subscription box to an 8-figure run rate probably I think it was by about month 9 or 10 by run rate. And it's just absolutely insane. And now today, we've shipped over 500,000 interactive experiences. Our subscriber base just over the holiday doubled. So it's really exciting. And we really tapped into this audience. One thing that I do in marketing that I don't think a lot of people do is I hop on the phone with people. And a lot of this too is also my business partner, David Tendrich. He hops on the phone with people too. And we find out why people don't buy, why they are buying. And we created this couples angle where we talk about playing this game as a date night. So, this date night, hunt a serial killer together. It has a great pattern interrupt. It gives a great concept of use. And we realized that there was a huge pain point for people where they were just tired of sitting down, zoning out, and watching Netflix. So we created this way that you can engage with your partner, do something fun. And, oh, by the way, you can tell your friends that you're hunting serial killers together. So we just hit Most Innovative Company of the Year.
Awesome.
We were number 10 on Fast Company. But just to give you some reference of the companies that we're surrounded by, we were on the same list as Activision Blizzard and Rockstar Games. So
amazing. Congrats. That's awesome. And Jake Jordan, a friend, and he's a member in the community here. He said, haha, my wife just asked me about Hunt a Killer last week. She must have got a Facebook ad. She's obsessed with all those shows you mentioned. So Facebook targeting totally works.
Oh yeah. I mean, Ezra Firestone actually took one of my ads, and he's running a course right now showing how to scale Facebook ads in 2019. And it's one of my ads. He's showing first course. So
that's awesome.
Clearly people are taking notice. And we've gotten this to a level where, we understand the customer on a deep level, that we're converting really high. During the holidays, we were converting as much as 5% conversion rate on a subscription box. and we have a great understanding of the audience, but it's a lot of fun. I got to be honest, one of the best things about Hunt a Killer is that I can be irreverent. And I am irreverent by nature. So when I look at guys like Cards Against Humanity and stuff like that, I love how they can just be completely irreverent, but it speaks to that audience. And with Hunt a Killer, you can do that. I remember Manscaped talking about how they tried everything, and then they started using a sense of humor, and everything started to work. So, with social media, whenever I get a chance to be irreverent and grow a great business at the same time, I'm usually very, very happy.
Yeah, my videos didn't explode until I started dropping F-bombs and swearing in them. And then next thing you know, it's like the difference between 5,000 views and 400,000 views. And you get the 5% or less of people who are, I am no longer, they comment, I'm no longer watching you because of your profanity. I'm like, all right, thanks for commenting. You just shared it with your entire network by commenting.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, listen, you don't have to be everything to everyone. Like, you want to speak to your audience, and it almost self-qualifies the people that you can work with. Because I know you're a no nonsense, no bullshit type of guy. Like, you hop on the phone with somebody, you're going to challenge them, and you know what? A curse word or two might be thrown out there, but that's who you are. That's the authenticity of you. So good. Get rid of those people. They're not the ones you want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Often I get asked, sometimes if I'm speaking to like a corporate group, are you going to swear? I'm like, do you want me to swear? And it's funny because more times often than not, they're like, yeah, they want a little bit. They want you to wake them up, a little bit. Well, so I want to, there's a couple directions I'd love to go with this. I guess the first is, so you've seen them grow, to me, I know my strengths, I know what I do well, and I know what like melts my brain, right? Anything logistics wise kills me. Like I don't want to have anything to do with it. So I know you're not dealing with that part, but you've seen Hunter Killer grow. Subscription boxes, like to me, it's like, oh, awesome. Gosh, how would I ever start that? You got to mail, you got to have the boxes printed, you got to do all this, as you saw him grow, and you've built your business too. So, and we'll talk about 10X because you've seen other businesses grow. What do you find is kind of the recipe for people in a logistics heavy business? And we already kind of talked about saying no to certain things to grow something that is logistics heavy, for lack of a better term. A lot of moving parts.
I mean, I think that there's kind of two things in their temporal, right? So number one, like, and this is one of the biggest mistakes I see in marketing, is this: people jump too quickly to scale or build systems that scale when you're still actually testing for product market fit, right? So when Hunter Killer started, right, Derek was the writer over there. He was actually pumping out these boxes from his home. He was hiring people on Craigslist to pump out the boxes. And, eventually we got a warehouse and all the other stuff. But the answer is that you got to hire somebody. Like, you look at Tyler Sullivan, founder of Bomb Tech Golf. He used to hand assemble his golf clubs himself, right? And he felt like he needed to have control over that process. It was the only right way to do it. And then he went ahead and he started hand assembling in the United States. And what he found is that it wasn't up to snuff. So he moved to China and had China actually start assembling it right away. And he had way lower defect rates. And it was giving up that control. And also he had a sense that, oh, I'm going to lose all my customers if I go to China. Well, I hate to tell you, every golf club is made in China. The only difference is that you were assembling in the United States, right? And so like, when it's assembled there, it comes out way sturdier, way lower defect rate, and it allowed him to scale the business. I mean, otherwise he would have never scaled that business. He would have been miserable. And this is a guy that talks about, working 2 hours a day. How is he able to do that? He gave up control. So, I mean, I'm not a logistics guy. But I can remember when we're testing product market fit, I got videos of it where my mother-in-law and my wife and I are all sitting down and we're packaging up all these goods for e-commerce to be shipped out. And we're doing it on a weekend at like a WeWork like conference room. And, that's sometimes the step that you got to take first. But then once you realize like that you do have an opportunity that does make sense, hire somebody. Get out of that business. If you are bad at logistics, hire somebody that's good at logistics. Fire yourself.
One of the most common things I see holding people back from either making a jump into a business, quitting their job and going to a business, or scaling up, or I don't even want to say scaling up, because just growing, just taking it to the next level, is that they don't know the difference between an expense and an investment. And I'm willing to go into the hole a bit if I know it's going to grow. And sometimes I've made bad decisions where I went into the hole, and that hole, I wasn't coming out, and I've learned to right away on a dime. I just paid, so I'm doing a book. I have no inkling that I'm going to make money on this book. The book is a lead magnet. The book is a speaking gig magnet. The book is, going to sell other things. I wrote the book. I have a wonderful editor. She doesn't do the publishing and all that. I could have sat there and pieced all the little parts together. And I know some people who do that, and they spend 5 hours a day doing that. They're not running their business. Finally, I said, so a couple weeks ago, I had on a guy named JT McCormick, just an incredible guy. Grew up, the son, poor. He grew up poor. The son of, this is his, as he describes it, a black drug dealing pimp father and a white orphan mom. Now he's the CEO of Scribe Media. His partner is Tucker Max.
Scribe. I love what they're doing.
They're awesome. And we talked about it, and I said, well, fuck this. What am I doing? I went and I did a call with Scribe, $9,000. I committed to $9,000. Can I afford $9,000? No, but I can't afford not to do it. Now I do a 1 hour call with my person. I've written the manuscript. It's done. I'm going to make back that $9,000 in one speaking gig. So there's people I know who won't spend $5 or $10. And I'm not just talking like on a coaching program, or although selfishly, yeah, in some cases, but there's some people who will not, they won't invest in any type of help. Well, I can't afford that. And they end up stuck in the mud because they're doing shit that's their weakness.
I really, really don't understand that mentality at all. Like I remember in 10x, we had somebody one time, and I knew that they were like an 8-figure founder, and they asked, and they said, you know, I should we buy it at Espresso? It's $49 a month. And I go, give it to your team, buy it, see if they like it. If it works, great. It's $49 a month. Like your time is way more valuable than making a decision about whether to save $49 a month. And so like, I see this a lot where like people get scared to invest, but like, even for me, like, you know, I'm always rolling up new businesses. And a lot of the times when I do it, I'm often going in the hole a bit because I'm testing distribution before I actually have a product. So like when I launched a e-course, I went ahead and I put about $2,000 towards my e-course with webinars, see what the leads look like, see what the quality of the leads look like. I did about another $2,000 on one for my co-founder, Eddie Makalani. He's the co-founder of 10x, also the founder of BigCommerce. And my course just sold better. So we went ahead and we went forward with it. Now, is that at some cost? Not really, because we made a ton of money back, right?
Right.
Eddie's was a sunk cost. But I didn't waste all that time trying to figure out which course to build. We built it on demand, and we went after the one that made the most sense for the market. So, like, I do this all the time. I think that, I don't know, it's foolish not to invest in yourself. And it's also, like, we're entrepreneurs, right? So, like, I remember a guy in the Navy, he used to always say this to me, and it's funny because I still think about it. And he was more talking about gambling, but he was like, scared money don't make money.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes you just got to be willing to put it out there and, you know, manage your risk. You know, what are you willing to lose? What's the downside for you? You know, one speaking gig. That's your downside. You get one speaking gig, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly.
It breaks even. So what?
My favorite is coaches. There's some coaches out there. And I'm thinking of two specifically. And if it's people, if you're listening to this or watching this and you're a friend and I consider you a friend and you know who you are, I'm not talking about you, okay? But there are two people. One's in New York City. One, I don't know where the hell he's at. And they're both not making any money and have not been making money for probably a year. I was going to go to New York to do a LinkedIn course. And then I decided I just didn't want to do it. It didn't fit my vision. And this guy was giving me the business. I think it was $99 or something. He hasn't made a dime. He said, I'm at my last wit's end, but he wouldn't spend $99. There's another guy he goes around from coach to coach asking for free coaching. If you're a coach who's not willing to spend money on a coach, you don't believe in coaching. And so find a new profession, but you could probably apply that to a number of professions, right?
You got to be willing to spend the money. I mean, it frustrates me. I mean, it's such a penny wise and a pound foolish. Like I mentioned this recently on another podcast, and I truly believe in this. And that is, I prefer to solve problems with who's, not what's, because it's way easier to hire somebody that knows what they're doing than to go ahead and try to figure it out on your own. Like I had somebody the other day, like made a quick edit on like Webflow, and I just knew how to do it. And the girl goes to me, she goes, "Oh, so thankful that you did that. If I had to do it, it would have taken 3 hours." Well, that's just one example of what could happen in your life as an entrepreneur. Is like, okay, is it worth the 3 hours? And oh, by the way, like, you know, you find these specialists, right, that all they do all day is focus on this one very unique skill. And that might be the very unique skill that you have, right? I'd much rather hire somebody that focuses on sales all day than somebody that, you know, they just do it sometimes, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. Totally. And there's opportunity costs. And I often ask people, calculate your hourly rate, not just the actual rate that you make on your paycheck. Like, what's your value to your family? What's your value to your overall company? Like, if you died, what's your value to yourself? I guarantee it's a lot of money. And like, that's a perfect example. If someone else could do something in a half hour that takes you 3 hours, you are making money, unless that person is charging. Well, it depends, right? Depends on what the activity is.
I mean, Launch Titan is a great example, right? For you. I mean, I imagine those guys are shortening the learning curve for you, and they've also put you in a much better spot. I mean, would you want to do that all alone?
Yeah, no. And I had tried in bits and pieces. And that's actually one thing I want to talk to you about. So Facebook marketing.
Sure.
You mentioned that you've done so much. You're the best in the world. What's the number of, if you know it, I'm sure you do know it, the amount of Facebook ads that you've run in dollars and the amount that you've turned around ballpark for your clients in terms of revenue?
I honestly don't know what it is as a record, but I mean, like, last month alone was probably about $2.9 million spent, and probably the average return on that is going to be somewhere around 4 to 6x, because some of this is subscription revenue, some of it's not. But yeah, I mean, that was just last month. I mean, I haven't been keeping a running total, but let's just say it's significant. I think Kevin Canning, who's friends with both of us, he's the owner of Pearls of Joy. He goes, only if people knew how much money you make from your laptop.
So there's a lot of people out there who offer, my goodness, you know, there's some people, when you connect with them on LinkedIn, the first thing they say is they offer Facebook marketing. And I've had some people come into my group, my coaching group, and they've been taken for a ride. And I feel like there's two pieces to this that are important. One is, I was telling someone about hiring Launch Titans. And if you're listening, Launch Titans is an awesome online marketing ads. They really specialize in the personal development space, which is why I brought them on. They're awesome. They redid my website online course. If I had, first of all, they wouldn't have worked with me if I had tried to hire them when I first started, right? Because they don't just work with anyone. But let's say they had. I really wasn't ready for them yet. I needed that year of finding my message, finding my vision, getting my product offerings done. So I think there's a lot of people who focus on the tools, and it's garbage in, garbage out, right? But then there's also a lot of people who are out there and they figured out how to use ClickFunnels and, like, very simply took a course. And now all of a sudden, I've had people pitch me, "Oh yeah, I have a funnel for that." Really? Okay. So you've sold coaching. Well, no, I've sold widgets. Well, how much were the widgets? Well, they were like $9.99. Okay. My coaching, some of it is like thousands of dollars. How do you recommend for people to weed away the bullshit artists that are out there? Because there's thousands of them out there.
I mean, personally, I've never found a Facebook marketer to beat me out, but I found some really credible ones, and I recommended one to you.
Yes.
And I mean, part of that is because I knew his knowledge base, but I kind of don't want to skip over something really, really important that you said. You said that it took you a year to figure out your messaging and really figure it out, right? The reason that I am more successful than most people on Facebook isn't because I'm a better technician, right? Like, I'm a good technician, right? there's all these different buttons and different things that you can do. But what makes me really good is I look at the complete picture, which means I'm looking at creative, I'm looking at conversion, I'm looking at the funnel, I'm looking at what I can do on the back end to extend lifetime value. And I'm looking at all those things. And a lot of times when you just hire a Facebook marketer that doesn't know what the heck they're doing, or they just care about ad spend, they're just going to jump in there and they're just going to spend money, right? And a lot of times the process is broken, the messaging is broken. It's another reason why I get on the phone with customers, right? You were talking about how Anthony helped you over launch nights, helped you build out kind of more a funnel that makes sense for this type of business, right? You probably had to create some collateral. And that is the thing that a lot of people are missing. It is a very much a relationship when you hire a marketer in terms of paid advertising. Like whenever I have a phone call with somebody and I decide to do business with them, and honestly, that's far and few between. I take on very few people. But like when I decide that I want to do business with someone, I ask them up front, I'm like, listen, I'm not excited about, we can start here at our spend levels, but I'm not excited by those numbers. And if you are, let me know, because I would rather just take a pass. Other thing that I tell them is that they're going to run into issues because I love scale, which means everything in their foundations that is broken, it's going to be revealed because we're going to scale this super fast. And when that happens, you're going to run into fulfillment issues, you're going to run into customer service issues, but the founder needs to be dedicated to that, right? And then finally, you want a good feedback loop with that agency too. So like when I'm vetting people, I really want to know that they understand me. They're asking a lot of questions, but I also want to see that they're very successful in multiple industries. I'm less focused on single industry because almost anything can be replicated or modeled. But like if I was to, find a Facebook marketer that was high quality, it'd be easy for me to vet them, but like I would probably try to work at like founders intros. Like if you're trying to get a VC, a lot of times the first thing that you do with VCs is you hit up other founders and be like, hey, can you make an intro to this, right?
Yeah.
Why not hit up founders in your same industry and see what's working for them? And what you often find is that there are people that are going to be guarded, but a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are open and willing to share. So, if you find that there's a coach and they're crushing it, just ask them. Yeah. What's the worst that can happen? They could lie to you.
Well, you hooked me. It's interesting. You hooked me up. And I think there is the coaches I know who are successful have an abundance mindset where they will share, they'll share messaging. They'll share everything because they know there's enough to go around. The people with the scarcity mindset, it's like, oh, I don't want to share. You hooked me up with Bradley Callow.
Yeah, and
just awesome dude. And he's not doing, he does Facebook content, but he's not getting a lot of clients. It's speaking. He's doing I learned from him. And then he's like, oh my gosh, how are you doing LinkedIn? And so if you have an abundance mindset, which I think is key to growing a business, not just for taking the risk, but how you run it and you share information with people and you're not guarded. It's so important. You certainly do. You give a view.
I share openly all the time, and my wife's always like, "Oh, don't give away your secrets." But like, what's so funny is that I can hand somebody an exact blueprint of what I'm doing, and they're still not going to be able to execute it the way I can because they don't understand the process, they don't understand the reasoning behind it. And proof's kind of in the pudding. I have certain people that I don't work with anymore, and they're not growing like they used to or growing at all. So, yeah. And it's not like they didn't have that blueprint before. So, it's just one of those things, like I could tell everybody all my secrets and they still couldn't touch me because they don't understand what got me to that place of thinking, that mind state.
There's I don't know if you remember the movie, it was in the 90s, Blue Chips, the basketball movie with Nick Nolte and Shaq and Penny Hardaway. And there's a line in it, and it's before their first big game. And Nick Nolte, who's kind of he's the Bobby Knight character, he screams at him and he's like, I'm going to walk over to the other locker room and I'm going to give him our whole goddamn playbook because it doesn't matter what you do, it's how you do it. So it just reminded me of that because I see that a lot in terms of people ask me, oh, LinkedIn, what's your secret to LinkedIn? And it's like, well, it might not work for you. Even if you do it in my style, you have a different, first of all, you need to know your customer persona. Like I had a guy in Egypt, he sold like wheelchairs, and he wanted to do LinkedIn videos. And I'm like, have you even thought that through? If that, where, and
the professional network for people with disabilities. No.
Yeah, right. And maybe there's some people on there,
yeah,
but it's
your customers might be hanging out somewhere else.
yeah. But he didn't have a customer persona. He didn't, he was going the wrong direction, throwing spaghetti against the wall, and letting that, and there always has to be a little bit of that, I guess, too. But
and the thing too is, like, I know about what you went through with LinkedIn too, is like, you have a process for testing what works and adapting. Even if you hand the blueprint exactly what you did, they don't have that same type of mindset. They don't have all those things that you picked up throughout time to make better intuitive decisions about how to adapt.
There's a guy who's, he's specifically one of the guys who will call different coaches and ask for free advice, ask for free coaching, right? He comments on a lot of posts basically sharing how smart he is and how what I'm doing is just another way of saying what he's coaching. Like, it's one of those kind of weird things. So lately he's been taking to my videos saying, oh, I really prefer this style to the other style. I think this really works. Finally, I commented, I said, I have preferences on what I like to look at, but I let my outcomes drive it. And so the problem with a lot of people is, I like this style of video. Okay, well, if it's not making money, all right. If your outcome is being happy looking at your videos, great. It's like when I was in politics, if there's a Republican candidate or a Democrat candidate, right? The candidate wants to be on MSNBC or Fox News in the general election. Maybe in a primary, maybe, but in a general election. They don't realize how small of a viewership cable TV actually has. But then it's a general election. And what it is, it's about this candidate and his or her friends seeing the ads. And it's like, okay, you can want to win the election, or you can just want to see yard signs in your neighborhood. Like, which is it? And I think the same goes through with, entrepreneurs or any business owner.
It's true. I had somebody the other day, they posted in the group, and they were talking about Use Proof, which is a social pop-up that shows about people that are signing up and everything. And a bunch of people are talking about how they get annoyed by it and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, listen, I tested it here and it worked really well. I tested it here, it worked terrible. I go, this is marketing, which is all about testing. I go, this isn't my personal journal. I find them annoying too, but I'm completely agnostic to what works,
Totally.
I have no dogma other than, what does the data say?
Yeah. It's, obviously we're talking about technical things. People have asked me if I swear and it's forced. I said, hang out with me for a day and you'll see it's just how I talk. It's not like I'm swearing just to make a buck. It's just people who've been to my events, usually when I swear, it's completely unplanned because that's just how I talk.
Right.
Don't fake, So let's talk about 10xFactory.
Sure.
I've been a member for about 2 years, I think, a year and a half, 2 years. There's some people in the Freedom Club community who are members. It is I don't even know if you release this or whatever. There's hundreds or thousands of members. And it's a Slack group. It's an accelerator. I don't know if you would call it kind of an online mastermind. It's information sharing. There's different channels, Mindset, Wins, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. You do hot seats. How did you get the idea to start that up, and how has that journey been?
Oh man. So I guess I'll rewind a little bit. So I met my co-founder, Eddie Makalani, actually online. He had read a course a piece of content that I had on Facebook scaling. At one point in time, believe it or not, I ranked number 1 for that. and so he calls me up, and he was calling about some other business, and he's an Australian. I think he called me at 9 p.m. or whatever. And by that time I'm in my deep V-neck. I got some real peacocking hair. And he turns on video chat and we just start chatting. And, you know, for that company at the time where they were spending, I thought it made a lot more sense to double down to SEO. And I told him that straight up. And we just stayed in contact. He added me to a Slack channel. We just stayed in contact. And we were always trading ideas and helping each other, never exchanging money, just helping one another. And I went ahead and I started to check out the entrepreneurship organization. And the entrepreneurship organization, it's a great organization. I mean, it connects entrepreneurs in a lot of different local cities. I know people that absolutely love it. I went to the Baltimore chapter as a meeting to be vetted, and I hated every second of it. And the reason I did is in my local area in Baltimore, it was a lot of like real estate developers, a lot of insurance guys, a lot of people that, you know, I respect what they do and I respect their business, but it wasn't for me. You know, these were guys that were complaining about their $8, $10, $12 hour employees and guys that were talking about 2-3% growth. And I was just like, this is not the place for me. So like, I felt like I left a black hole and escaped narrowly. And I drove home and I hit up Eddie and I was like, what if there was a community that we could mastermind with people throughout the world that was vetted? Because one of the issues that I had is I tried joining a bunch of free groups. Like there's free Facebook groups and this is like free coaching, you know? Like, yeah. I joined a bunch of these free Facebook groups and it's like flooded with so many entrepreneurs. Like you can get 100 different Facebook ad opinions, but you're not getting ad opinions from people that actually ran ads, or at least with some budget. I mean, you mentioned Anthony earlier. He's in 10x, right? Anthony is a guy that spends real money. I do too. And there's a couple other guys. When we compare notes, we find answers quickly.
Yeah, right.
And so we wanted to do that, and we wanted to make it global. And so Eddie and I actually took this from idea to launch and did it in about 2 weeks. I ran through about 24 ads until I found the winning one, which was really funny. It was a girl with tattoos and sunglasses, and it said, most entrepreneurship groups require pants, this doesn't. And it just absolutely killed it. And, you know, fast forward like 2 years later, we have about 1,000 members. And it's, in my opinion, it's a community unlike any other, right? Like there is no guru. We didn't want a guru, right? A lot of communities, there's a single guru, and I get that. Like that makes sense for certain things. But here, I was basically trying to replicate what was going on at the entrepreneurship organization Vistage, where we're removing all these physical boundaries as well as making it easier to connect, right? Yeah. These guys have forums once a month. You can hop on 10x, you can ask a question, and you can get a response that same day, right? What I really love, and you can tell me if this is true for you too, but like what I really love about the community is how unselfish everyone is. Like you can hop on the phone with people in 10x and they're happy to have a phone call with you and just shoot the shit, talk about what's working, talk about what's not working. And I've never seen anything like that. It is not a place where everybody's just pitching business.
No, it's Doug Holt, who's a coach in there. I mean, he'll just message me every once in a while. Hey, I hadn't seen you here. I just want to make sure you're doing okay. You know, that's a situation where we could be competitors, but you know, we're not. And so I totally experience it. I've been bad because I kind of float in and I float out. And literally my excuse for it is if I restart my computer and Slack doesn't come back up, it's like not, you know what I mean? It's not like right there. So when it's open, I'm all of a sudden you see like things posted every day. If you have just a few more minutes, if you're okay, I know we're over on time a little bit. Are you cool?
Of course, man. For you?
I appreciate it.
For the beard?
Yeah, right? Yeah. The beard's asking, not me. I'd like to talk to you about authenticity. And we talked a little bit about this, I think, before we came online. But Fraser Cameron and I, Fraser's my coach, you know, he and I often talk about people in our space or other spaces who we know are full of shit and they don't practice what they preach and they don't live what they're saying and the way they live, and it's a facade. And we know that because we've had discussions with them. you've done some posts, which I've liked and I've commented on, about some people who spend a lot of money on Facebook ads. We don't have to name the names, or, I don't care. But authenticity, and especially in social media, but especially for people who are, there's Joe or Jane who has the Instagram feed. They're deep in depression, but everything makes it look like they're leading a life of fulfillment, right? That's one piece. But the people who are doing things one way, getting a lot of money in or asking for a lot of money and living completely the opposite of what they're doing. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I know you've railed against it a bit.
Oh, man.
We don't have to name names.
I mean, I think a lot of people are full of shit. And I think they become this form of themselves where it's not about being helpful or actually executing and living that life that they're teaching. It becomes a case where they're just essentially trying to get as much media arbitrage as possible, or they're trying to consume as much as possible in terms of money. I mean, listen, some of these founders, they're incredible, right? Like, some of these gurus, they did a great job with their business, and they deserve some respect. But now there's been a situation and a shift where a lot of these guys are really just trying to consume value instead of create value. And they're trying to be the next soundbite instead of somebody that's actually creating reciprocity by teaching someone something. And there's definitely a lot of people that I don't like, and I'm going to keep it to myself. But
yeah, that's fine.
I have a feeling you know a lot of those names. I can personally say there is not a single guru that is big on social media that I follow.
Yeah.
I see people make posts on ads and they're like, oh, I spent $1 million this last year, and here's our blueprint on how to do this. Or I scaled an e-commerce business from like 0 to 300K per month. And like, I'm looking at all these guys and they're really just trying to consume from people because they're scared too that they don't know how to grow their business. But like, I'm like, motherfucker, I spent over $1 million a month just last month. Like, it's not that complex. I don't know. I really, it leaves a really, really, really bad taste in my mouth. And I mean, you and I think we get along so well because we definitely see that bullshit and we don't want to deal with that bullshit. But I also find you to be a very genuine person. Thank you. I think one time I even told you, I was like, man, you're like the entrepreneur whisperer, right?
Yeah, right, right. Yeah.
like, I just like the fact that you took a big risk in leaving your agency and then building something. And it's something that a lot of us want. I mean, man, I'm terrible at work-life balance, right? But you're living it and you're teaching through what you're living. You're giving the practicum. And I mean, I can't teach that. That would not be authentic from me.
Right. And
there's teach somebody how to grow and scale a business.
I think, it's interesting because people listening or watching, there are people out there, and you and I spoke before this. Before we went live and started taping, I have begun really 5Xing the amount of content I'm doing. I'm trying to keep it quality. There's always a CTA. So people are seeing some more CTAs. There's different. Sometimes it's like, come to my event. Sometimes it's a special I'm offering. Sometimes it's come into my free group. And it's people in this group, no, you're a member of this group. I try to offer value. I try to do, these things. And I also I have conversations with a lot of people, back to our saying no and yes and all that. But I get accused all the time of being full of shit, and you're not really doing that. And they try to call bullshit on me working 12 hours a week. And I'm like, you know what? Call my wife, because my wife, if I post something online, she will let me know it. She'll tell me, you're only supposed to work 12 hours a week, and I can't in good conscience answer my friends if you're not. So people who know me know I'm living, what I say online. But what you're saying is, don't stop selling. Sell, but be authentic in doing it, right? Because I sell the shit out of my stuff, but I also try to be authentic and, somewhat, no matter what you do, you're going to be accused of something. But
I mean, you're not shooting the Lambo in the garage video.
Right. Well, and they rent, right? They go and they rent a house, and they go and rent the house for the photo shoot, and they do that, or they rent the Lamborghini. I had a guy talk about, he's like, oh yeah, you're in front of the rented house. I'm like, no, motherfucker, this is my actual house. You know? And like, you know, that's too bad. So
it's so funny. I get the exact opposite. I went out with like my one of my old interns who's done phenomenally well. So my old intern, guy named John Lim, another great Facebook advertiser, he traveled like 48 countries in 2 years, paid off all his student loans. And he takes me out to a Korean barbecue, and we're sitting down together. And two things amazingly happened. One, he goes, man, you dress so poor that people would have no idea. And I go, thank you.
Yeah.
But I also, I mean, I grew up poor, and I also try to be very cautious of the way that I spend money outside of the business. Like a lot of people think $1 million is a lot of money. Well, it's not a lot of money. $1 million net is not a lot of money either. Like, you want to talk about $1 million net? Chop half that off for the government right now. Right?
And you live in Maryland, right?
Yeah.
How does someone who hates taxes live in Maryland?
I'm moving.
Okay. All right.
I'm done. But it's just awful. And so like, so I live very poor, if you will. And then the other thing that was amazing, and I'm sure that you get this too, but like, and this happened twice in the last 2 weeks, so it felt really good. But I'm pulling out my credit card, pay for the dinner and everything else, and like he slaps my hand away, pulls out his, and he goes, "You don't know how much it means to me to pay for this for you." And I was like, "Damn, yeah, that's an amazing feeling." So
that's awesome. Yeah, sometimes my frugality gets in the way of. I'll sit there for an hour. You know, you talk about time and protecting your calendar, trying to save the $50 on the flight to my event.
Oh,
and it's like, all right,
your time's worth way more than $50.
Yeah. And I could do that. Not only the hour spent doing it, but it's like, I'm going to have a stop in another city. Like, what am I doing right now? It was like, well, I won't get into it, but like my events and the logistics of some of my events now, I'm hiring people to go do stuff, because by the time it got to my event in Dallas last week, I was kind of worn out just from doing it. And I got to run around and get the pizzas and do all that. So I found a guy with a PA system. He said $350. I could negotiate. I could spend an hour and waste my time. Done. You know, it's just like I pay for ease and pay for that.
There is definitely it is worth paying the premium on not encountering more mental debt.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And people, it goes back to our discussion of protecting your time, saying no. Some people just will not, they look at that dollar and it's only that dollar. And often when we go on vacation, I try to do the little budget things. And then when we get there, I pay for the upgrade immediately. Like when I went to Cairo, right? I didn't want to take certain airlines for a variety of reasons. Egypt Air, like really, really old airplanes, I'm told, and they don't serve alcohol. And if I'm going to be on a plane for 12 hours without wine, ain't happening. So I took Emirates, which is a cool experience, but I went coach, and I flew to, where did I fly to? I had to fly to Dubai and then fly back to Cairo. And there was a guy who was like half in my seat. My back was killing me, and Roger Wilkerson, who's in this group, I can't remember what he when I was on the plane, he sent me an acronym or a Facebook message. He said, with all my entrepreneurs, I try to teach them. And he used an acronym. I can't remember what it was, but it stood for always fly business class, dumb fuck. That was it. And so I'm sitting there, I'm eating dinner, and it's 2 days before my flight, and I get a note from Emirates, upgrade to business class for $900. And I could not pay that fast enough. And Emirates business class, like I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to get off. They got the full bar in the back. So it's life's too short. I mean, don't be stupid with your money, but focus on your priorities. I had a $700 a month souped up Jeep, and I traded it in for a mini, and I'm saving over $200 a month, and I love it.
I know this sounds crazy though, but like you just travel 12 hours, and if you're absolutely miserable going into that 12 hours, how are you going to do on that speech, right?
Right.
How are you going to do on this tour, right? Like sometimes you got to invest in yourself to make sure that you're healthy, to make your best impression when you actually show up to that event. And listen, I don't know if you're selling on stage or whatever, but listen, if I'm selling on stage and I'm groggy or my back's out of whack, I'm not going to sell as much as if I'm, nice and happy and relaxed.
Yeah, no, exactly. I feel like I was at a little bit on Thursday. I was looking at the tape of me. The interviews were great. I do live interviews, but my energy just wasn't up when I was walking back and forth. I was in Traverse City in January. I feel like my energy wasn't up. And I just, I cut corners on a few things and it showed, and that may have cost me money. So, well, Eric, I really want to thank you for your time and hopping on here. Eric, for those of you watching the live stream here in the group, Eric is a member of the Freedom Club community. So if you have questions later in the day or the week, post them here. Eric will be in there. He'll see them. For those of you listening on the podcast, you weren't able to watch this live stream, so you missed out. Too bad. Join the Freedom Club community now. Eric, if people want to learn more about Eric, not just to have a random chat, right? Like at the bottom of your post, don't call me. But if they are legitimate business prospects, or if they want to learn certainly about 10xFactory, where's the best place to go? We'll link in the show notes, but also mentioning here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow faster and connect with 1,000+ entrepreneurs, I think 10xFactory is a great place to check us out. It's 10xFactory.com. Do you have anything direct that you want to ask me? Hit me up at eric@10xFactory.com. And also, I'll be here in the community. I mean, I think what you're building here is quite amazing. And like I've told you before, like you're kind of my superhero in the way that like you have what I don't have yet, and I want to get there. So
well, likewise, you have a lot.
I'm very excited to be a part of this community. So feel free to hit us up here too. And yeah, man, this is fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. And for those listening, thank you for listening. This has been the Freedom Club podcast. If you're watching the live stream, thanks. Please share more of your questions and comments, and we'll talk to you soon.